Welcome back to the Crypto ZX channel, to the Cardano family. Happy Sunday wherever you are around the world. This update right here, we're going to be talking about the question that I see so much. And that question is Cardano capable of reaching a $10 price point? Whether it's this cycle or in the future. And I'm going to, put the numbers in front of you guys, share my personal thoughts with you guys on that. And whether or not I personally think realistically that this can happen this year. Obviously historically speaking, 2025, which we're obviously in right now, sometime this year should be the top of the market. And I'm talking historically. Usually, one thing I want a lot of newcomers that are coming into the space, and I'm sure a lot of people that have been in this space for quite some time can agree upon. If you're gonna go backtrack and look at the previous cycles, when you're coming closer to the end of the bull market, you always tend to see people saying, okay, you know what, this time is different. This time is different. This time is different. In the past, it was not the case. This time around, I personally think that's not the case as well. But arguments could be made upon, the regulatory, obviously clarity that's coming towards the digital asset space. And on top of that, the amount of institutional demand that we're seeing. Before, it was mainly driven by retail. This time around, institutions are in the picture. We're talking about real world assets. And obviously, as far as financial, institutions are concerned, and services industry, these guys are getting the green light from the regulators to actually, offer crypto to their clientele. So that is that different aspect. And like I said, I'm talking from a very realistic standpoint. But do let me know in the comments what your personal thoughts are. I'm not saying that, this is going to be a super cycle. I've shared on my personal channel, I've shared on this channel personal times, that, hey, you know what? I personally think that this year should be the top for multiple coins. So you want to have your strategies in place. Exit strategies, whether if you're obviously in it for the long haul, you don't care about locking in profits. And of course, it's pretty simple. Patience is your number one key to follow. But anyways, enough with the rant. Let's get into the number and the, nitty gritty details and see, what really requires ADA to reach a $10 price point, and whether or not I personally see it in the, coming near future. So looking at the overall, market today, today's the weekend, still CME futures are closed. We're still seeing quite a bit of green across the board. ADA up 3.5%. Price currently sitting at 95.3 cents. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, wait, what, Crypto ZX? We're up 3,451%. No, guys, come on. That's max on the time frame. So that's like, pretty much since, it was listed on CoinGecko. Obviously, that is recording it from that angle. But anyhow, in Bitcoin comparative, we're up about 3.6% in the last 24 hours. Valuation approaching 35 billion once again. 24-hour trading volume, quite impressive for Cardano, currently sitting at about $2.5 billion. But before we get into any further, as always, just a quick disclaimer. Anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in crypto. So we're going to first talk about the price, where it's at, and then I will bring out the numbers for you guys. So, give you guys a little bit of a better understanding about, ADA reaching a $10 price point and what that would require. So if you're looking at the dominance still showing weakness, exactly what you want to see the dominance doing. We haven't, actually reached the August 13th low as of yet, but so far the way the dominance is reacting, gives me a lot of confidence that, we will break below this sooner rather than later. But if you're looking at Bitcoin's price right now, let's give it a refresh live here for us. Bitcoin actually did go up to $118,452 earlier in the morning, but you can see we saw a retracement, and we're currently sitting at $117,637, still holding quite well. But that is something we want to kind of keep in mind. But the fact that you did see a retracement, and you have seen a lot of altcoins still see a push towards the upside, that's all thanks to the dominance. Simple as that. And if you're looking at the price of ADA right now, we're still battling it out with this key resistance at the dollar price point, a psychological level, and as of yet, we have yet to break out. But look at the volume spike here on the charts here. You can clearly see, if I were to zoom in, something we haven't seen like this since March of this year. So last time this much buying pressure was coming for ADA was back in March. So it has been quite some time. So, this is something we don't want to be ignoring, and you can clearly see that spike here. But I want you guys to take a look at ADA on the hourly perspective, and then we'll get to our main topic. So as of yet, we did come up to the 98.8 cents, getting closer and closer to the dollar price point. But you can see we have seen a little bit of retracement in correlation to BTC. Obviously, it's still a weekend, but ADA continuously, is starting to show a lot of positive signs, and a lot of people are noticing that. But now let's come down to the main topic of the video. Does ADA have what it takes to reach $10 price point? So first and foremost, before we focus on the $10 price point, we want to focus on what was its all-time high. ADA's all-time high was last cycle, and last cycle it reached a staggering $3.10. And at that time, the valuation, so the market cap for ADA, let's actually take a look at it. We came very close to $100 billion, guys. Yes, that's correct. $100 billion for ADA. And since then, obviously, we have seen a major crypto winter, and as of yet, we haven't really, tested the halfway mark, which is the 0.50. But we discussed in my last video how I think that would be the next target once we get into the 61.8, which I personally think is going to be the case after we break out of this dollar price point. I think this is going to bring in a lot of eyes, and believe it or not, there's still a lot of people that are probably still looking at the price increase, but they just look for confirmations because maybe a dollar is the confirmation for them to jump in, and we could see a huge spike of volume kicking in once you see this breakout and turning into support. So $3.10 was our all-time high, and from where we currently are, that itself is a move of about 222%. So again, everyone has different ways of looking at analysis or making predictions. I'm going to only talk about or think about the fact that ADA could reach $10 price point once you break the all-time high. That's what I want you guys to keep in mind. So once we break the all-time high, that's when we should start forecasting about some of these higher price points. $10 is such a psychological price point. Of course, it's a double-digit number. Everyone wants ADA to reach that, but I'm going to share my personal thoughts as to what I think could happen. So and I'm not measuring it from here, from where we currently are. Obviously, if we measure it from this angle, that itself is a move of about 10 to 11x. It's a 11x from where we currently are. Okay, so that's something I want you guys to keep in mind. But I don't like doing that, to be quite frank with you. I like measuring it from the all-time high. So let's say we do enter price discovery mode, which I personally think, not financial advice, I'm very confident that we will see ADA reaching a new all-time high and breaking into price discovery mode based off of what we're seeing right now. And that itself, if you kind of measure it from there, we're looking at about a 223% move. So give or take, I would say that's like a 3.5x, right? So that would be a 3.5x for ADA to reach that price point. So now it's easier said than done. Oh yeah, it's 300 from here, 500 from here. That's not the thing that we need to be focusing on. What we need to be focusing on is whether or not it makes sense this cycle. Usually speaking, and I'm going to make a comparison to the likes of XRP's price action, and I'm going to make a comparison to the likes of Ethereum, because these are bigger cap coins, right? And usually what happens is when these coins do have their performance, some of the profits start allocating back into the smaller caps. And we could still see insane amount of inflows coming in, especially if we get an ETF. So this time around, obviously the institutional demand factor needs to be considered, but me personally, I'm not writing off that ADA is not capable of reaching $10, especially with a blockchain being used globally now. It's actually seen as a technology that's revolutionary, that revolutionizes the way even finance works. And more bigger corporations are starting to pay attention. We obviously been hearing a lot of rumors about Charles Hoskinson helping the U.S. regulators, and maybe we see some sort of an integration. If that happens, that changes the game, of course. Those are things that are not confirmed, but we can speculate upon those. But what I'm saying here is, In order for us to see a $10 price point, that would need a market valuation of, yes, drum roll please, $365 billion in market cap. And I know some commenters are going to come out and say, Crypto ZX, you have lost your mind. There's no way it is going to reach $365 billion valuation. But what if I say we came up to 100 billion and no one expected that to happen in the last cycle as well? $100 billion valuation in the last cycle, and no one expected that. And since 2021, so much has changed. You know, we did not have this type of clarity from regulators. There was no clear guideline for crypto. And as we are going into the regulatory, environment and how everything's going to be regulated, projects with the real utility, the ones with the real world use case are the ones that are going to survive, in my opinion. And of course, we have that other speculation thing to be kind of speculating upon, which of course is on whether or not we're going to see, an incentive for US based projects, maybe giving them a capital gains exemption, which obviously is not set in stone. It's, it's a rumor that's flying around. And if that happens, I'm not writing off, but like this cycle though, I think price, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, Crypto ZX, we're literally in the 61.8 and you're expecting us to reach an all-time high. What if I told you a huge chunk of the supply is being staked right now, which I've said that to you guys before. It's a proof of stake consensus, ADA. And you need to realize, if you understand economics, it's a basic economic rule, not even going into the complex stuff. It's supply and demand. When you see more demand coming in, look at the 24-hour trading volume. It's pretty much 10x over the course of the last month and a half. When you're seeing so much demand coming in and there's low supply, believe it or not, these types of projects do tend to move up much quicker. So that, makes my overall prediction that, we do see all-time high for ADA much faster than people realize. And once we enter price discovery mode, so this is what I want you guys to realize. Might not see $10 this price point. This cycle, because to be quite frank with you, we're coming closer to the end. Unless, of course, you see an ADA ETF going live and we hear some crazy, partnership that just changes the game. Until then, maybe, no one, and I guarantee you, no one on crypto YouTube is going to be knowing whether or not, where the top is going to be. No one knows that, okay? We can make educated guesses. So let's actually take a look. Let me think of a project here. Let's actually take a look at ETH. I'm going to take a look at ETH, just kind of making an educated guess here. So if you're looking at ETH here, let's go from this cycle here. So once we broke out of our 2018 all-time high for Ethereum went up, you can see from here, from the $1,437, we went up 240%, give or take, right? We went up 240%. And yes, this is the second largest coin in the crypto space. I'm not saying we're going to see the same price action, with ADA, but if that were to happen, let's just take a look at that. Let's just put that into consideration, okay? ADA USDT, we're just looking at the USDT chart, and okay. So let's say we were to see something similar to ETH. So from where we currently are, 200 and let me just kind of zoom out. We need a bigger time frame. Here we are. So from all-time highs, once we enter price discovery mode, 240% actually puts ADA at $10.56. So, quite interesting. Could that happen? I think, I'm not right. I definitely don't think that, we're not going to see ADA attack. I think in the future, ADA, with the way it's, moving, if you focus on ADA's network, which a lot of people don't tend to focus on, they're making some big deals, and I think it's still being slept on. Once you really put that into consideration, you could really understand what they're trying to build. But in terms of the native tokens price action, that would require 240% increase from where we currently, from our current all-time high. So could we see it this cycle? I personally think no. This cycle might not happen. We might come close to it, maybe like $7, $8. I think would be something that would be more realistic. But again, if this happens, I could not be more happier for, the ADA family. But this cycle, it is a little slim unless, of course, you do see some of the bigger things happening, which, of course, like the tax exemption part is huge. If that comes on board, I think that changes the entire outlook on ADA. But again, I'm just personally, making my own prediction or speculating. Obviously not financial advice, only time is going to tell. Do let me know in the comments down below what your personal thoughts are on that. Do you guys agree with that? Do you guys disagree? Do you guys think it's going to go higher? Let me know in the comments. And also, let me know in the comments, where do you see ADA's price at the end of this year? On December 31st, as we are going to New Year's Eve, where would ADA's price be sitting at? Let me know in the comments. Love you all. Subscribe if you want to see more of these updates, and I will bring you guys more of these updates. We'll see you later. Been Crypto ZX, and peace out.